Welcome friends to another r/EntitledParents video. Today we've got a crazy story of a mom that wants to put cameras in someone's room. But first, a story from Camaro Days 911. Smug Karen takes my car keys because I can't possibly be the owner. Earns herself a ride in the backseat of one of our county's finest. This incident was so stupid that I can't really help but share the story since my friends keep telling me to. What I find most weird about this is that my car wasn't anything super special. It was just a yellow 09 V6 Chevy Camaro with black stripes. When I bought it, it was super cheap because the passenger side door had been smashed in somehow, and there was already 130,000 miles on the odometer. But the title was still good somehow. No idea why, nor do I really care. It was sold to me via a proxy. All I know was the car looked like a good deal, so I bought it. A friend of mine who works in the auto body fixed it for me. He said that most of the damage was to the door itself, and I just needed a new door after he made a few tweaks to make sure everything was straight. Together, we managed to find a door at a salvage yard that was the same color. A little work and the car looked almost new, and it became my fun ride to commute to work or drive around when I didn't feel like using my other car. I didn't do any modifications to it. I'm not one of those guys that's into speed or crazy mods. I liked the car because it looked cool and the gas mileage wasn't so bad with the V6. In fact, I wanted a V6 Camaro because I'd heard that they're usually in better condition than ones with a V8 because people drive the V6 more for looks than power and don't gas it as much. I drove that Camaro for a year before running into a random Karen at a supermarket last year in September. Those places tend to draw in Karens regularly, especially in the state I live in. I've seen many Karens, but was lucky to hardly ever be noticed by them. I was shopping for some stuff to make dinner and was about to head home when I found the Karen with her young son all over my car after exiting the store. I'm guessing the boy was around 4 years old, and his mother was taking pictures of the kid sitting on my hood, while the kid kept smiling and gleefully saying, "Bumblebee." Yes, I understand the reference, and I've heard it all before. I don't like people messing with my property, and told the kid to get off. The Karen took one look at me and told me to mind my own business. Now, I'm 29-year-old male, but I have a bit of a baby face, and my casual clothing made me look like a teenager, so I guess to her I couldn't be someone who'd have anything to do with such a nice car. But actually, that's a pretty common car. I told the Karen to get off my Camaro, and she bluntly told me that there was no way it was my car because I'm too young. I pulled out my keys and hit the alarm button on the remote. That made the alarm start blaring for a second, and her kid jumped off while screaming and crying because I'd frightened him. But rather than pay attention to her crying child, the Karen came running at me full speed and managed to shove me hard enough that I fell over. The next part is a bit hazy. I got a bump on the head, and that crazy witch slurred every word she was screaming at me. She stepped on my arm and pulled the keys from my hand before I really had a chance to react. Though she didn't really hurt me much, she wasn't a big woman, only around 5'2" or so and a twig, while I'm over 6 feet and over 170 pounds. When I got to my feet, she was comforting her crying kid and telling him that I was a mean person. I told her to return my keys, but she got hissy and said there was no way the Camaro was mine. I again stated it was, and I would only give her one more chance to return my keys. She didn't. Instead, she handed them to her kid, who proceeded to start playing with the buttons on the remote and unlock the doors. I had enough and got out my phone to call the police. When the Karen saw I was on the phone, she started screaming and charging at me again. Though this time I easily dodged her, and she nearly fell on the asphalt and screamed I'd assaulted her. I never even touched her, and said as much out loud. The 911 operator was listening to everything that was going on, and I quickly told her while we were here that this insane woman was still screaming at me, and 2 police cars had shown up before long. At this point, the Karen had locked herself in my car with her son, and started the engine to run the AC. I explained everything to the police, and they knocked on the window of my Camaro to get the Karen to open it and give them her side of the story. She claimed the car to be hers and that I was just some stupid broke-butt teenager that tried to carjack her, then bragged that she'd taken me down. The officer asked if that meant she'd shoved me over, to which she bluntly said yes. I told the police to look in my glove compartment, and there was my insurance card and a copy of my registration. And they could compare the name on my license. When the Karen heard that, she finally got out of the car and finally admitted it wasn't hers, but then said that there was no way it could be mine, and that she just took the keys from me to find the real owner. That quickly earned her some shiny new bracelets, and she was put screaming into the back of a police car. The parking lot had cameras, so it was easy to prove the assault, though I only really got scratches, a bruise on my arm where she'd stepped on it, and a small bump on the head. After Karen was taken back to the station, they found she was high on drugs, which explains why she was so nuts. I of course pressed charges, though my testimony wasn't really needed since the police had both CCTV from the parking lot and the audio from my phone call. It turned out to be the Karen's third offense, and she got 2 years in prison. Oh, and her kid was taken from her. The whole incident made me rethink owning the Camaro because it had been a magnet for people that bothered me a lot. So I sold it, basically got back everything I had into it anyway, so I broke even. I doubt I'll want to own another sports car again. I know OP says that they'll doubt they want to own another sports car again, but really, let's break this down and recognize that just because this Karen did this doesn't mean that that's one of the costs of having a sports car. That kind of situation should almost never happen. Does this story just end up making you feel the worst for the kid, if anything? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Our next story is from Horror Doubt 5807. My mom wants to install cameras in my room. I was caught making out with my boyfriend. Now my very religious mom wants to install cameras in my room. I don't know how to feel about this. For one, I feel very uncomfortable. I used to think my room was a safe place for me and unwind and change and such. Of course, my mom being who she is, her solution is for me to change in the bathroom. I plan on moving out soon, but in the meantime, I'm still left with this issue. I would say, if at all possible, I would not budge on refusing to have a camera placed in your bedroom. I am of the opinion that your bedroom should be your sanctuary. It should be a place where you can change if you want to without being recorded, and it should be a place of comfort, privacy, all the things you deserve in a bedroom. And our final story of the day is from Teffy Phone. Can't my son stay on the 1.4 million pound machine for free? Because he punched you? Disclaimer, I have dyslexia. I work in an outdoor activity center where we have a flow rider, a stationary wave you can surf. I was recently trained to teach on this flow rider, and this must have happened on my 4th or 5th time teaching how to surf on the flow rider. To go on the flow rider, we set up groups of 9 or 10. It's the best way to set it up. You have the longest time, plus it's cheaper, and it's me alone in the room with the customers. I checked the group's health and safety form, and I saw that there was 7 of them, and asked the receptionist, Elliot, if there was any missing or late. She said that there were 2 missing and to watch out for them. Walks in entitled Mom, and I can see the customers as typical mom with 2 kids. Let's call one Conrad and the other Amy, and the baby who thinks they're the second coming of Christ. I could see that Conrad was given everything that he asked for by his mom. Way too much chocolate. Amy turns out to be a friend and not entitled mother's kid. The mom walks up to the desk late and asks where they are to go for the session. The receptionist Elliot says, "Have you filled out an H&S form?" She says, "No, but I have been here before." Elliot says, "Okay, but you have to fill out your form beforehand." She cuts in, "Could you not look it up on the system? We were here about a year ago." Elliot says, "We have to ask that you fill out a form every time you come. Even the staff have to fill out a form every 6 months." Entitled mother says, "Fine." Elliot says, "Would the kids like to go outside and wait for the others?" I missed out on the rest of the conversation because I went to the staff room to grab a drink and to relax. The duty manager comes in and says, "Watch out for that lot, they've been here before." I say, "What happened?" The duty manager says, "Just keep an eye out for the bigger kid. Last time he was here, he made a mess of reception, and the mom is awkward." A polite way of saying which. Keep your radio and don't hesitate to call me up. I check the 2 health and safety forms and recognize the handwriting. I say, "Elliot, did you write this?" Elliot says, "Yeah, she was being a pain, so I asked her the questions and wrote it out for her." I got out to start the session. I say, "Hello everyone, my name is Tom. I'm going to be your flow rider coach today. A couple of things before we start. In the rare event of a fire, make yourselves decent and go to the fire meeting place in the car park around the corner. If anyone's wearing jewelry, Connard says, I know all of this already. When can we get on? I say, just a minute. I have to go through this beforehand. If you're wearing any jewelry, please take it off, or any watches, as they can cause problems and they might be lost. Now, is there anyone who has any medical issues that you didn't write on the form? Has anyone taken any medicinal or non-medical drugs, including alcohol? If you have, then you can come and tell me privately if you wish, but I would rather know and not need to than need to and not. A girl once came up to me and told me she was 3 weeks pregnant, but her mom didn't know. Connard says, can we go? I say, yes, if you'd like to follow me to grab a wetsuit. Connard pushes an 8-year-old out of the way. Entitled Mother says, he's a size 12. Clearly is not, I would say a size 14. But me being evil, I decide to give him a size 12, knowing that he won't fit into it, and knowing they'll have to come back to get another one. My duty manager comes up to them and asks them if they'll come to the side. It happens sometimes, and it's often to get them to resign the form, or something or other. I go off to get changed, manage to do it in 2 minutes instead of my usual 5, and then I go and wait in the reception to talk to Elliot. I had a crush on her, and to grab a radio. Elliot says, do you know why duty manager grabbed Entitled Mother, Connard, and Amy? They purposely took the wetsuits hanging outside off the hangers and threw them in the mud. I say, I see. Entitled Mother comes back with the wetsuit, and me talking in my best customer service voice says, what can I do for you? She says, did you give my son a smaller wetsuit on purpose? I say, no, why? She says, it's too small. I say, okay. Oh, it's a size 12 and these are American sizes. American size 12 is a bit bigger than the British sizes, keeping a kind smile on my face. She says, just change it to a size 13. I give her a size 14, and then I go back to talking to Elliot. Elliot says, don't annoy them on purpose, grinning. I go and grab the key to the ride and talk to the other customers. After they've gotten changed, Entitled Mother comes up to me and says, do you mind if Connard goes on the ride alone? I say, is there any particular reason you ask this? She says, last time I was on here, he got pushed off by kids. I start teaching the ride. I ask the youngest one, I know because of the medical form, if they'd like to turn on the ride. It's a small thing, but it's fun to do. Connard asks why he can't. I just ignore him and explain how to do it to the kid. I say it's going to get loud in a second. The 2 turbines kick in. I start loading people onto the ride. A few things about the Flow Rider. 1, it's loud. 76 decibels, so we use hand signals. 2, our insurance only allows for 2 people on it at a time. 3, the boards are either small, we have 3 and are for people who weigh 40 kilograms or less, or big, we have 4 for everyone else. 4, on this session, we don't teach people to stand up. There's other sessions. It's the equivalent to bodyboarding. 5, you can get on from the back by jumping down onto the wave, or you can get back on by sliding on from the side. 6, the term wiped out means to fall out of the main flow accidentally. 7, the instructor can't be on the wave with other people. This is to do with supervision powers. When I have a break, Entitled Mother beckons me over. We have a setting area for people who just want to watch. She says, can't you turn it down? It's annoying my 3-month-old. I say sorry, but no, it's all or nothing, I say, not looking at her, because I'm supervising. Amy and Connard seem to be doing good, but Connard doesn't want to try any tricks. I try and encourage him to do tricks to basically push him off the ride, to let the other ones onto the Flow Rider, and he refuses. So I let him continue, and I finally push him off the wave by spraying water in his face, by putting my foot in front of the jets of water. I do it to other people in a joking manner, but nowhere near as hard. You can control how much water is sprayed by the angle of the foot and the depth. So I gave him the biggest soaking possible straight across his face. Connard gets wiped out after spending around 3 minutes sitting in the wave. I gather the group up. Me, shouting with a friendly manner, said, now team, we're going to start jumping onto the wave from the back. I will show. Connard, shouting like a brat, says, I know how to do this already. Me, pausing and then continuing, I'm going to show you how it's done and then I will let you try. I show the group in a textbook way. I notice that Connard and Amy are talking to each other, clearly not looking. I beckon everyone else up to the hole in the wall. Of course, Connard pushes in front of everyone else. Time for a bit of petty revenge on this spoiled kid. Normally I set everyone up and then tell them to go. I just point for Connor to go and watch as he walks straight into the main flow and he lands on his elbow. I quickly walk over to make sure he's alright and offer him a hand up. He's so stubborn that he won't take my hand. He gets half to his feet and then falls on his face. I offer my hand again and he takes it. I then show him how to do it and he jumps onto the wave and gets wiped out. Next customer. I do the rest kindly whilst showing them how to do it. I get through the customers in the standard time and make sure that everyone gets 3 goes on the ride before I show them the next thing, going on to knees. This is harder but much funner, and we're getting to the stage where everyone can get on without help and without any help. So I decide to clear the wave so I can teach them how to get onto the wave. Connor sees the wave is empty and decides to jump on whilst I was clearing it. I simply spray water on his face and coax him to the side. Everyone else is being fine. I say to Connor in his ear, best way with all the noise, "You got onto the wave when I specifically signed for you to stop." Connor says, "I know what you're going to teach next." Me, still being the polite teacher I am, said, "I know, however, if I fall off and take you with me, I can't help you up and you could drown." A kid on a different Flowrider center fell off, and the instructor didn't notice and had to be rushed to the hospital. Me, now talking to the rest of the group, says, "Okay, I'm going to teach you how to go onto your knees." I do the almost perfect demo. I notice that Connor has gone to talk to his entitled mother during the demo. Normally for the rest of the session, I'm telling people when to get on and side coaching and just making sure that no one causes any problems and that they're safe. So I let them sort themselves out. I notice that entitled mother's walking up to me with Connor by her side. She says, "Why did you have to scare my son like that?" I say, "Did I?" She says, "Yes, you said that there was a risk of drowning." I say, "Yes, there is a risk of drowning. However, when I can see everybody, I can quickly rescue them from potentially being in a dangerous situation." She says, "Also, did you have to spray him across the face?" I say, "It was the only way of pushing him off the wave without turning it off. We don't like to turn it off unless it's an emergency or the end of the day because it increases wear on the motors." She says, "He could have stayed on the wave, there was plenty of space." I say, "As I explained it to him, if I crash into him whilst doing the demo, I could hurt him a lot. And I wouldn't be able to radio for help with a broken arm whilst he's on the wave, potentially drowning." She says, "You could have the decency of looking at me while I'm talking to you." I say, "No, I'm currently supervising the wave and I don't want there to be problems with the other customers." She says, "You're talking to me very rudely." I say, "No, it's just very awkward talking in complicated sentences when there's a lot of noise." I choose to walk off with the excuse to help a kid onto the ride that was struggling. Connor goes up to a kid and pulls the board off of him and then proceeds to go to the front of the line as if he was the boss. I decide to let it slide. If the kid complains, I would offer him a 50% discount for 2 people. I'd have to fill out a form, but it wouldn't be hard. He jumps on the second that there's only 1 person on the wave. Fine, but you're pushing all the wrong buttons. And then he hurts himself. He jumps on with his elbows bent more than he should be, and his shoulders up, so it sort of knocks himself in the face. He's fine enough to continue, but the next time he falls off, he comes to me and asks if he can slide on from the side. A lot of people ask to do this, and it's often fine with me. Yes, but you'll have to wait your turn. So his turn comes around again, and I tell him we can slide on. He wipes out after 3 to 4 minutes, and that's fine with me. Apart from that, he's right in the middle the whole time and won't try any trick or going up onto his knees. He then goes and talks to Amy with a board in his hand. They start fighting with the board, so I go up to them and explain, "Please stop fighting with the board. It's very expensive and you don't want to have to pay for a new one." He does an L shape with his hand and just turns back to Amy. So I pull the board out of his hand and hand it to the next kid in line and then go to the front of the ride. Connor just follows me. I say nothing because I know that he's going to complain or something else. I calmly walk over and continue supervising. Connor tries to talk to me. I say, "Sorry, can you repeat that? It's just very loud and I'm a bit deaf." Connor says, "Why did you take my board away?" I say, "It's not your board, it's the center's board and you risked breaking it." I just stand up to ignore him. He gets angry at this. I notice out of the corner of my eye he comes up to me and he punches me in my side. Near the kidneys, I think. I had a bruise there which made it more painful. I don't say a word to him. I just grab my radio. I play with the frequencies that make the radio beep, and walk over to his mom, and he follows. I say, you just saw your son punch me, so I'm not going to let him on for the next 15 minutes. After which time he may go on if he's kind. She says, you can't just do that. I say, if he was stronger or older, it could be considered assault. She says, he didn't punch you that hard. I say, enough for it to bruise fast. I lift up my top to show her the bruise that was there from a cycling accident 2 days before. Would you like me to call over my manager and see what he says about it? Mic drop. I walk back to make sure that I don't spend too much time away from the ride. It was 15 minutes and the session was about to end. I go over to Connard and say, would you like to go back onto the ride? Connard says no. I say, suit yourself. Entitled Mother starts to talk to Connard. I decide to walk back to the ride. Connard walks over to me a minute or two later. It's about 10 minutes before the end of the session. I say, so you want to go on the wave again? They say yes. I could more or less hear but not because you told me to. I say, okay, go to the back of the line and wait your turn, purposefully annoying him. Connard does as I said. It's coming to the end of the session, so I start collecting the boards and telling them to sit on the bench. Of course, Connard and Amy are the last on the ride. I sign them to the side of the ride, and of course, Connard doesn't move to the side, so I just spray him across the face. I grab his board and go to turn off the ride. Ah, my ears. It's a relief after an hour. I turn around to see Connard sliding around on the bottom of the ride. Get off the ride. I just decide to ignore him and finish the session. I say, okay, did you lot enjoy this session? I get a round of yeses and other agreements. I say, okay, go and get changed and take your wetsuits out to the big bin on the right. I turn around to see Amy trying to convince Connard to get off the ride. I say, come on off the ride. Entitled Mother says, could you turn the ride back on? I say, why should I? She says, he didn't get the same amount of time on the ride. I say, I'll turn the ride on if you pay the 60 pounds to turn the flow rider on and convince my manager that I should. However, until then, I'm not going to. I turn towards Connard and say, so please get off the ride. You don't want me to have to radio to have you taken off the ride. That works. I say, go and get changed and take the wetsuits outside. I follow them out, and the mom then goes into the boys' changing room. Normally I would have said something, but I couldn't be bothered. I go to the staff room, and the duty manager walks in. How was the session? I was expecting you to radio me. I tell them what happened, and they say, crap, you okay? I say, yeah. I tricked them into thinking the bruise was from him punching me, but it was from coming off my bike 2 days ago. The duty manager laughs and says, anyways, do you want to take some time off? I say, nah. They say, okay, go and sort out the wetsuits when they come out. Another customer comes up with his kids who give me their wetsuits. I say, so did you enjoy the session? They say, yeah, shame about those kids though. I say, sorry about that. I was trying to find an excuse to kick them off the session. They say, don't worry, have this as a tip, and they hand me a £5 note. I say, sorry, we don't accept tips. The customer looks a bit annoyed at this. I say there's a donation box for a charity by the reception if you insist, for working with people with disabilities. If you want to give away the money, and a 5-star on TripAdvisor does help, especially if you include my name in it. There was a system by which you could get a free lunch if you got 5-star TripAdvisor reviews. The customer says okay. I finish off and go on leave. In the staff room, I can hear an argument next door in the duty manager's office. The other staff are wondering what might be happening. Someone closes the door on the way in. The other staff says, how was the flow rider shift? And over the radio comes, duty manager to Tom, come to my office. I didn't bother replying across the radio and went next door, knocking on the office. Duty manager calls me in. I notice entitled mother with her small child. I say, how can I help you, duty manager? They say, why did you kick entitled mother's child off the flow rider? I say, he punched me in the side. They say, why did he punch you? I say, I believe he was angry after I took a board off of him after he was using it to hit Amy. I also warned him to calm down after he jumped onto the wave when there was 2 other people already on it, and refused to get off the ride after I signed him to get off on 2 occasions. The duty manager turns to entitled mother, and she says, you can't prove any of these lies. The duty manager says, Tom, do you mind if I check the CCTV? I say, by all means. Our place has sections on the CCTV control. The duty manager pulls up the 4 feeds and says, What time was it that the incident happens? I say between 3:35 and 3:40. That's when Connor punched me. The entitled mother says, how could you know that? I say I stopped him from going on the ride for 15 minutes. And there was 5 minutes before the end of the session, I say politely. Of course, the CCTV showed what I said. The duty manager says, okay, I'll deal with this. Tom, go enjoy your rest of your break, dismissing me respectfully. I go into the staff room for some banter. At the end of the break, I'm lifeguarding. We had to stand because it increased our reaction time, and someone fainted after getting up too fast. The center had a cafe on a balcony. I stand around when I see out of the corner of my eye something drop from the balcony. I look up to Connor and Amy dropping rubbish over the railing onto people on purpose. I radio up to get someone to deal with it. I can't go while lifeguarding. I hear later that duty manager had threatened to call the police. After I finished, I went to talk to Elliot, and Elliot said, they used the center for other sessions many times, and there were quite a few notes on them. So we decided to completely blacklist them. I say that'll only be useful until she marries the next guy. Did OP in the very last line drop some lore? That this lady went and married somebody else over the course of being an entitled parent here? Took on somebody else's last name so they could all of a sudden go back to, I'm assuming, the multitude of places they've been banned from. You can't prove it was me, I got a different last name, see? But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Now, if you want to hear another entitled parent story that was way crazier than any of the ones in this video, click on that left video. Or, if you missed my latest video, check out the one on the right. That said, I'll see you all next time with some more stories.